So, hi everybody and welcome. And I think we actually have a hiccups today. I'm not sure we are streaming on Facebook. It looks like we have something going on, but anyway, I did my best. All those hiccups, right?
Yes.
Coming along on Facebook. I'm just going to check out and then I'm going to greet everybody. No, I don't think we are actually live. So, I'm going to send a link. Uh, if you want to watch us, you can go to YouTube and streaming on YouTube. Sorry, this is what it is about when we are only two people here, right?
But we're great people.
Yes, we are. So
Resilient.
I
We're
think
very resilient.
yeah, we are. We are. So let's start from the beginning and welcome everybody. Welcome my beautiful, precious co-host and sister, Corinne Mooney, all the way from Arizona, and myself, Anne, all the way from Greece. Today we have Wednesday, April 23rd. Oh, we are approaching this year, aren't we? I'm always surprised, week by week.
Yes.
And you are watching Cosmic Sister Show with host Anne and Corinne. Today we talk about resilience in the face of adversity, navigating trauma and tough times. And I think this is something we feel in our hearts that it's nice and important to talk about, right? Because everything is not glitter and gloom or pink roses, and life has many things, but we can also feel appreciation over going through certain things, and we're going to come back to that, right? Our last show on Cosmic Guardians and Cosmic Sisters was last Wednesday, April 16th, and we talked about vibrations within, unveiling the impact of energy. Energy, that is something stunning. I love energy. And you can connect with us, find upcoming shows, past episodes, read articles, find Kareen and much more. And Kareen has her own website as well. And you find that uh, on our page here, angelplaceonearth.com/cosmic guardians. You can find past and upcoming episodes at angelplaceonearth.com/upcoming dash past. Took me a few weeks to learn that dash, didn't it? you know, all of a sudden you have to say something and then you say, oh my goodness, I know the word, but can't remember it. But anyway, we are here with you today and we are thrilled. So let's jump straight into today's topic.
Wow. Well, of course, we're gifted. We've never had trauma in our life at all. Well, guess what? Our very first trauma was becoming an air-breathing, self-reliant, self-sustaining member of the human race. Our first experience with trauma was birth. Science now agrees that the act of being born is very traumatic. I mean, we're being forced out of a safe, quiet, warm, non-glaring environment that has provided for us for 9 months. And now we're being thrust out into this element that we don't understand. I mean, when you're in the womb, your breath, your food, elimination, comfort, and this peaceful existence are literally going to be ripped away from you when you're pushed out of this nice environment. And that's pretty traumatic. We start life having to experience trauma. And
Yeah.
I think it is given to us so we can learn to be resilient. We learn to be compassionate. We learn developing our self sustainability through this experience. We do have pleasure and joy, but I think the most dramatic things we've ever learned are the ones that have come at the end of something very, very traumatic. Is that kind of what you think too?
Yeah, I think that too. And, it's interesting because I tend to refer to, going through transformation also in adult life while we're here. You feel
Hmm.
like we are coming down the birth canal. And one could actually imagine that it's probably not that comfortable when we come in here, and it takes a long time, and we are kind of squeezed all the way.
Squeezed, literally squeezed out, kicked out. You know, our first example of being kicked out of an environment that we're really happy with, and but adversity helps us become strong and self-reliant and independent, and also equips us with problem solving skills. And I have begun to understand that when I set up all the things in my life that I wanted to experience, I really went far out. I said, well, I'm going to have this traumatic thing. I'm going to have that traumatic thing. I'm going to have this happen. And I set it up so I would be able to have life experiences. And the joy is being able to examine yourself and say, okay, this isn't happening to me, it is happening around me. And
Yeah,
how am I going to resolve this? But it takes really facing what are your fears? Why do you feel inadequate? Why do you have a response to certain things? It came from our past experiences, but those are also giving us tools to be able to remove the trauma and have the lesson.
yeah, exactly. And it's many times I've asked the question, I have been asked the question, why does um, people who choose this path very often go through difficulties, right? Or feel like we or feel like we have challenges and we are walking uphill and it's a storm, when you kind of bend over just to get through.
Yes.
Um, but it's if things are smooth always and we are sliding through life without any kind of resistance, we are not going to experience ourselves, right? First of all,
No.
because we are kind of convenient as human beings, and that
Hmm.
is also natural to be, and it's nice to be convenient. But there's most of the time there is a hidden blessing in the challenge if
Yes.
we dare to see it. We may not see it at the very moment, but we will definitely see it afterwards.
Hmm.
And for us to become strong and experience things, we need to lived through certain things. And one could say, why don't we remember from our past struggles? Yes, power, and among other things. And there are, of course, other things that are affecting us sometimes, right? But we are here to master this.
That master. Yes. Yes. And we definitely get banged and battered and bruised. And some people will take this as a I'm the victim. Everything is happening to me. So they become hardened. They're reluctant to move through. They just want to use this as an excuse to be an SOB. And
Yeah.
and some people are that way. It's when you realize that this is part of an expansion of you being able to overcome challenges. And each time you overcome something small, the next time you're able to overcome something bigger. And it is given to us in little increments. And
Yeah.
I mean, would a piece of coal that is in a volcano say to the other pieces in there, well, this is just too hard for me. There's too much pressure. There's too much heat. I'm just going to sit here and do nothing. No, they say, wow, this is really hard and it's going to take millions of years, but we are going to be a beautiful diamond having
Yeah.
experienced it. You know?
Exactly. And um, I think that a part of having some challenges sometimes, facing adversity and trauma and going through difficult times is that we want to be in control of things, right? I'm talking very generally,
Yes.
and we can only be in control of ourselves again. And we talked about this
That,
before, right?
yep.
So when things are not in my hands to navigate or to manage or whatever it's going to be, because a lot of things are not, then I still have my power. And what is that? That is my response.
Hmm.
How do I respond to things? And I know that both of us have walked through mud and challenges. We had a huge share of those in life, but it kind of shaped us. It didn't define us because we didn't choose to say to ourselves that, well, because of everything I've been going through, I am a victim of my past. No,
Yes.
it strengthened us and made us more eager to move forward because we knew we could, right? And I think everybody should know it. Everybody can. We
Yes.
can, all of
And
us.
if there is no resistance, even when a plant is growing, and I'll give you a for instance. I'm growing a plant, and I wanted it to resprout. And do you know what it said? It said, put it in stress. Don't give it too much water, and just let it struggle, and then it will grow another shoot. And
Yeah,
I'm looking at this and I'm going, well, this is what it's about. If I didn't have to overcome something, I would never have gained my intellectual strength, my emotional strength, my physical strength. I mean, if you see anybody, an athlete, they don't go and sit on a big pillow and eat bonbons. No, they're out there pushing their body and going the next step, and striving to give themselves challenges that are going to strengthen the physical body. And I think every opportunity that we're given to strengthen our emotional, spiritual persona is gently given to us, and sometimes it's very hard, and sometimes it's very long. But think of the people that have gone through challenges and were resilient. We physically would not be here if at least two people had not been strong enough to endure the plagues, the wars, the famines, the earthquakes, the floods, and all of the things that are really perilous to the human being. But at least two people survived to
yeah,
start the chain. And all the people that had to be resilient to survive in order for me to be here today, resilience, overcoming.
yeah. Yeah, overcoming. And it's also whenever one goes through challenges, it gives a different perspective on things.
Very much so.
So, for instance, if I didn't experience any kind of challenge in my life, and I had a little cut on my finger, maybe that would be something that was horrible for me, right?
Hmm.
Just a small wound, right?
That's
And
right.
I would feel bad about it. I'm just giving a very silly example. But
Exactly.
when you go through bigger challenges, everything falls into a different perspective.
Yes. Now, I'm not advocating everybody go out and beat themselves up. I'm just saying that we came here to be of service, and everyone did. They just are maybe not aware of it. And the experiences that we have are giving us the ability to have compassion and understanding. Having my oldest son make his transition when he was 11 and going through all the surgeries that he went through, I now have experience and compassion, and I can assist other people that are going through that. Instead of saying, "Oh, no parent should outlive their child. How horrible. This is a terrible thing. Let's put a shrine up." No, he's an inspiration. I've written a book about him, and he's inspiring. Think of all the people that, like Anna Frank, like the young woman that survived 2 years while the African onslaught was happening in Uganda, I think it was. And 2 years she lived in a 6 by 6 room with two other women and never saw daylight. And that is the only reason that she survived that onslaught. Think of all of the resilient people that have gone through wars and gotten up and rebuilt and kept coming back. There again, we wouldn't be in existence if these people hadn't said, "Oh, this is terrible. The world is terrible. I'm just going to quit." So resilience is a beautiful gift, and
It's
it takes
fantastic,
takes a little bit of courage to go through and get it.
Yeah, resilience is not merely the ability to bounce back from hardship, right? It
No,
is the capacity to adapt, rebuild, and thrive despite the challenges we face. And at its core, resilience combines psychological strength, emotional intelligence, and a support network that fosters healing.
that's right. And you won't get that from every day just being, roses and happiness. I mean, believe me, I like my couch time just as much as anyone else, and my off time. However, there is so much to accomplish by saying, okay, I'm not really content with how I'm perceiving this. So what do I need to do to change my perspective? And there again, having the privilege of meeting people that have literally really gone through something far more challenging than I did. And when we started to do this, I remembered um, I have this little band here. Okay, it's nothing, but this piece of string survived my house burning down. Now I didn't have it in a special place. I don't know why it survived, but this came from a young man. Well, he was an old man when I met him, but he was a young monk that when the Chinese invaded Tibet was taken prisoner. And for 20 years, he was tortured. And for 20 years, every time he was tortured, he forgave the ones torturing him. And eventually, when he was released, he wrote a book. I had the privilege of meeting this. He was at this time when I met him, probably in his 30s. But they gave us this. I didn't do that, folks.
That's beautiful.
I did not make that into a heart. It made itself into a heart. Honest to goodness. I'm looking at that and I'm going, whoa. And
Yes,
yeah, but he wrote this beautiful, inspiring book. And maybe he endured all that so he could give hope to those who are dealing with challenges that might not be as catastrophic as what he went through. But resilience of the human soul, and that's what makes us human,
yeah.
is
And
yeah,
something else interesting as well, and maybe it's obvious as well, right? You cannot inherit resilience
no,
because it's something you build for yourself.
that's right.
You have to build it. And to build resilience means that you need to encounter experiences. So you
Hmm.
have something to build on, right?
Exactly. Nothing, nothing that you want to achieve in life is going to come without effort. If you want to get through first grade, you have to color in the lines. If you want to get that diploma, you have to be able to take that test. Um, we are given like goals. And each time we do that, each time that we are kind with ourselves, gives us strength to be kind. Each time that we are compassionate with others, gives us strength to be more compassionate. These are things that we build within ourselves, and it does take effort.
Exactly. And no one else is going to be able to do that for you, right?
No,
And but people can help you through. That's different.
yes,
People can help you sharing their stories so you can see different angles and perspectives. Again, perspectives, right? I love the word.
I know it's
And
beautiful.
it is beautiful. And I think it's important because also going through challenges, it means that while we are in them, we may feel extremely uncomfortable, and that's natural, right?
Yes.
So,
Oh yeah.
as human beings, many times find myself in a situation, I just want, take me out of here, right? I don't want to be here.
Hmm.
So I fight it, but also fighting the challenge is not going to help you move forward. It's going
No.
to keep you there. And I actually um, heard about people or talk with people who say that they have been in therapy. I'm not against therapy. I think it's needed. But um, if it's something that's going to go on for many, many years and you're not going to be able to move forward, maybe considering changing the therapist or trying out a different modality or whatever, because we need to get things out of our system. That's how I express it when we
Yes.
encounter challenges, right? But we need not to remain there. We need to come out of it at a certain point, right?
And that in itself is a big challenge, um, because there are some people that constantly identify with their trauma, or constantly identify with their illness, and even though they have been physically cured of whatever it is they were dealing with, they identify as that person that has an illness. So doctors will see that 6 months, a year later, they will come back with a different version of what they had, because that is how they see themselves. And that's where the strengthening your convictions, um, and changing your perceptions of things, um, and working on those shadows earnestly, not just saying, oh well, I go to therapy and and it's helping, but but I still have this problem. When are you going to unburden yourself? If I walked around with all the traumas that have happened in my life, I'd be flat as a pancake because, lady, they're heavy. I don't want them. I say, okay, I learned this. Now I will bless it and let it go. I'm free.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a very good point because identifying yourself as a victim of your past experiences, that's not going to bring growth. It's not going to build resilience for you. It's not going to move you forward. It's going to keep you in that loop all the time. And I'm not saying it to judge anyone, right? I know that it can be really, really challenging, but sometimes, no matter how reality looks like around us, because we can't really change everything just in an instant, right? But we can say, okay, this is how it looks right now. I accept it. That doesn't mean I like it, okay? But I accept this is how it is
Yes.
at this moment in time. And from that point, trying to move forward, but accepting is also like you are setting out an intention and saying that I'm stop the resistance to this. I'm not resisting any longer
Yes.
because resistance keeps us caught up, right?
Well, it does. Like your resistance to when Mercury goes into retrograde, and when you no, okay, this is a cycle, and that's going to go. So how can I live within that? I may not have control there again over that particular thing. So how can I control how it affects me? And
Yes,
this is the way that we learn how to get through what needs to be gotten through. And and folks, I'm telling you, it's part of the beautiful gift of becoming your authentic self. and
yes,
and there are some bad days, there are some days when you just need to cry, there are days when you need to just lay on the couch. This is being human. It's when you get yourself up and go, okay, this is happening and I can control how I respond to it. And
exactly,
yeah,
exactly. And that is very, very important because otherwise, we're going to be stuck. And I can just chime in with a funny story here. I'm very much sensitive to Mercury retrograde, and I'm laughing when I say it. So many, many years ago, before I came to awareness, and it dawned on me because it's so many energies all over the place, and we can't focus on everything all the time, right?
right.
But I used to resist. That's how stubborn I am. So I tried to resist the energy,
Hmm.
and I tried to fight Mercury retrograde, and that is kind of um, a dead end, right? It's not going to bring anything because you can't
Yeah.
really fight a planetary energy in that way. But every single energy, everything, every single event, everything that happens, every challenge has the negative side of it, and there is sometimes only just a stain, but a blessing, right?
Hmm.
So even with Mercury retrograde, it's an energy that is very introvert. So you can look within instead. That's brilliant. You
Yes.
can use it to your advantage in that sense. So whatever is going on right around us, we can always look within and try to figure things out for ourselves. And how should I respond to this? What is this telling me? What do I feel? And for sure, certain things that happens takes longer time. It's a process. It's nothing that is done by the hour. There's never ever any quick fix here on this journey, is it?
No.
But we need to come to that place of self-love and just accept, okay, this is what is right now. And I can't change that because it's not in my hands. So how do I respond? You could phrase that in a different way also. So when we go through challenges and after months or years or whatever, we can't really release them, right? But how much space in my being, in my mind, do I want to give to a certain event in my life? Or do I love myself enough to let it go?
Yes. Yes, and that's very key. And we deal with our own things in our life that are immediately connected to us. Many times we're also dealing with ancestral trauma and something that has been passed down generation and generation and generation for like 2,500 years, that because this happened and it was a trauma and everything else, we're just going to hang on to it and we're going to keep telling our children about it. Remember this. And that is something we also are given an opportunity to let go of also. Not history. History teaches us, and we should learn from history. It's the visceral feeling that brings us to a fury that says we have to respond to this because 3,000 years ago this happened and we're going to keep doing it and we're going to keep, suffering from it. And we're going to teach our children to suffer from it. These are things that when they're released and when there is this ancestral release, and we as individuals can help that ancestral wound by also letting go of those traumas. And this is a process. This is an amazing gift that we're given to be able to be resilient in the face of a challenge and come up with amazing ways to see them differently, have different perceptions and perspectives, overcome with compassion. And we're just given a gift to be able to suffer.
No, it's not about
Not
suffering.
really.
But anyway,
No,
I
but
have a fun.
go ahead.
Yes, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's your turn.
Okay, thank you. I have a funny story. I'm going to crack a joke, and it's a real life joke, actually. And because I consider myself half Greek, even though I'm not born here, right? Neither are my parents, but I see myself. And you talked about history. So many years ago, I joked with a colleague from Iran, and maybe everybody knows that Alexander the Great
Mm-hmm.
tried to conquer a lot of areas and land.
Oh, yeah.
And I just said the word to my Iranian colleague. I said, Alexander the Great. And he looked at me and he said, you always going to say things that hurt. And I said, 3,500 years passed
Yes.
and you just let it go.
Exactly. It's history. It's something that we learn from. Could there have been a better way of doing it? I mean, the atrocities that human beings do to other human beings, to me, animals are more human than what we call human. We're animal too, but I think we're the most brutal animal around because we just do it because somebody tells us go do it. And
Yeah.
but these are
And
things that we should learn from.
yeah, and and I've said this a lot of times in my life, and I realized that human beings are brilliant in inventing ways of torturing or treating other people badly.
Yes,
That's horrible, to be honest.
exactly.
Instead of turning it around and sending out love and caring for each other, right?
And that comes from trauma, that comes from ego, that comes from a lot of places. And as an, I hate to use this word, but in an enlightened, aware Homo sapien, part of what we came here to do is to change that thinking and realize that we don't have to inflict our will, our thoughts on others. We just put them in a big pot and make a big stew. It's this is where we have growing compassion, and hopefully our traumas have led us to become a more authentic person, which is going to be able to be more authentic and teach other people instead of
Yeah.
responding with, well, I'm going to take it because I can. And there's just
And
so much.
yeah, yeah, it is really so much. And something else that I have encountered too, and that's kind of interesting. So someone going through a challenge or a real trauma or whatever, right? Something really bad, right? Consider themselves have the right to, for a period of time, maybe that day, maybe for a week, maybe for a certain amount of time, to treat others badly. So
Mhm.
others should actually, they assume that because I have gone through a challenge, it gives me the right to treat others badly. No,
Yeah.
no,
And and this is where examining your own fears, your own doubts, your own uh, feelings of betrayal or abandonment and everything else, and bringing them into the light and saying, these things allow me to now be better at what I do instead of I'm going to go out and seek revenge. Blood is thicker than water. These types of mentality of an eye for an eye, and even that's taken out of what it meant. Or plucking your eye out if it causes you problems. That doesn't mean physically. That means if you're seeing something that is not healthy for you, stop looking at it. It doesn't mean go out and do damage to someone else. Um,
no, it
we
doesn't.
we yeah, we grow and we become compassionate, more empathetic, and really, when you find people that have no empathy, no compassion, they are the ones that are not really human.
No, yes, exactly, because it's not a very um it's kind of primitive. I would call
That's
it
it.
primitive. Now, I'm not judging either, but it's when you observe things, you realize that's a very primitive behavior. You could say that maybe human beings would be thinking that way in the Stone Age, right?
Mhm. When you're in survival, there's a difference in what you do to basically survive as to when you begin to thrive. And we all need basic things. We need to breathe. We need to eat. We need water, and we need to have the companionship of closeness of people around us. And this is a wonderful trait. It's when we lose that ability to be resilient and take a situation that is a negative and turn it into a positive. It reminds me of an old story about the stone soup. And there were travelers, and they came together, and they see this man, and he's got a big pot of water boiling, and he takes stones and puts them in the water, and they say, "What are you doing?" He says, "Well, I'm making stone soup, and everybody can join as soon as it's ready." And so they go off into their respective little places and they go, well, I think that stone soup would taste better if I threw a couple of potatoes in. So somebody brings potatoes and pots them in the stew. Well, I have some extra carrots. Let's put that in the stew. Oh, I have some herbs. And pretty soon everybody is contributing to the stone soup. And that is the beauty. It wasn't the stones, it was the camaraderie. It was the companionship. It was the communion of and community that created food for everyone. And this is where when you become communing with all of the world, uh, you use all of your challenges that have made you stronger, and then you can find a different way of presenting things and a different way of bringing people together.
Exactly. And always doing our best. And we talked about that, and that goes back to the four agreements, right?
Yes,
Our best in when we are having a challenge, maybe we are not that very open, to comfort others or taking care of others because we are full with our own stuff in that moment, right?
yes,
But we can still approach having, coming from the place of love instead of from the place of because I'm going through this, I'm going to get you, or whatever it is, right?
yes. And also we discussed this in the giving and receiving. At that particular moment, we needed to receive the gift of receiving and to allow others to be the support that we needed while we were going through that challenge. Rather than lashing out and saying everybody's going to suffer because I'm suffering, allow people to be that compassionate and be able to flex their compassion by
Yeah.
being of assistance to us.
Yes, exactly. And that's brilliant, isn't it?
Yes, and we forget that sometimes.
We do forget, and I think that this is why we love talking about these things. And maybe they sound that we don't bring up topics that are colored in pink, fluffy, um,
Oh,
all of these things because it's kind of down to earth. But we are living here, and sometimes we are so much out there that we forget that we are grounded also here, trying to
yes,
manage this environment and this dimension and this place
yes.
where we are living, right?
And every day, life gives us an opportunity to overcome adversity. And I think I mentioned this because it kind of tickles my funny bone that every time that we have a subject, uh, I personally get to live what we're going to be talking about. And this morning before we started, thank goodness, because I was able to clean it up. I reached for my cup, and the lid was not on tightly, and down the front of me and all over the floor. Fortunately, it didn't hit my computer, and I'm going, okay, a challenge that I'm going to have some resilience to, and so so I was able to experience what we're talking about by being resilient and overcoming a challenge, and and not letting it become a trauma. You know?
Exactly. And you could just say here when we kicked off today, we didn't stream on Facebook again. And I don't know. I think maybe it's Facebook itself. I can't really tell, but we use StreamYard, and I don't think it's StreamYard, to be honest, because I do everything I can before we go on, right?
I know.
So
Yes.
but we are still streaming on YouTube. But you could take that also, getting into a mode of great stress. But there's no need because, it is what it is. I can't change it. Maybe I can fix something afterwards, right? But there's
Exactly.
no need to stress. No,
Because if you had come in stressed that this wasn't happening and brought all of that energy, and all that vibration to what we're doing, nothing we would say today would come out in any other way than like this, because the energy that we bring when we are speaking to each other, if we are charged with negativity and frustration and anger, it's going to come across via the screen. And
Yeah.
as you said, uh, that expression, go with the flow. And then when there's a door open, then you take that door. I see
Yes,
this so
exactly.
much when people, especially during rush hour, and they are determined that they are going to turn against the traffic, and they're going to stay right there and hold up traffic until they can go that direction. When if they turned and went with the flow of the traffic and then found a place where they could turn around and go back the other way, they would have been where they wanted to be a long time, and nobody would have been frustrated. The people behind them wouldn't have been frustrated. The people that they cut in front of wouldn't have been frustrated. And it's just, what is going to serve the higher purpose? Being there and
Yeah.
being stubborn and saying, I'm going to do it my way because I'm in control, or just saying, go with the flow. And then I'll get
Yeah.
off and make a U-turn. U-turns are wonderful, but
Yeah,
it's,
exactly. And there's always a solution to something. And I call it, I went to school, but it wasn't a school, it was work. But I started to work at the commuter trains many, many years ago, 2002, selling tickets at a commuter train station, right, in
mhm,
Stockholm. A big station, maybe from the time the station opened until we closed. It opened around 4 o'clock in the morning, I think something of 4:30, and closed maybe 1 o'clock, 1:30 night, right? But of
wow,
course, I didn't work all the shifts, right? We had three shifts a day.
right.
But I could observe people. Most people didn't come to buy tickets or things. They already had their ticket for a month or for the season or whatever, right? But some came, and quite a few hundreds. Um, and everybody was stressed. And hurry up, the train is coming. Hurry up, the train is coming. When the next train probably would take 10 more minutes, right?
Yeah.
So if we also become aware of our behavior, where we are putting in the stress for ourselves,
Hmm.
is this something that is really necessary for me? Am I making a hen out of a feather? Maybe I could approach it and respond to the situation differently, right?
Hmm.
Because it was kind of interesting sitting there and watching these people doing all these things and saying things.
Yes,
Um, Very, very like Stone Age behavior.
exactly. And there again, part of that too is not accepting the responsibility that if they had gotten there earlier, they could have gotten everything in a calm way. But there again, there were other forces in their life that kept them from there. But it's how we approach things. What is what are we feeling? How do we perceive this? And how are we going to then release it? How are we going to meet this challenge, this adversity that's coming to us? And because we can't control those people, we can't control the trains, but we can control how we respond to them. And
Yeah, we can. And it's about paying attention to yourself and saying, okay, because of certain things, and maybe it was my own fault, right? I missed the train. The next one is going to come. And what are the consequences? Are they really that bad?
yes,
Very often, no.
that's true. And what are the consequences if you go through and you're pushing people out of the way and you're frustrated and you're angry, and then you carry all that to the next place that you go? So that's a consequence of not being able to go with the flow, so to speak. Um,
Exactly. So, coming back to what we have been talking about, building resilience, um, our response also to circumstances and what life brings us and things, because we can't control each and everything. That's not going, so we can't do that. It's we are co-creating with each other, and there are so many things we are not managing them. So we are maybe using them, we need them in our life or for whatever reason, but what are we doing with it? How am I how am I trying to cope? What is my response to it? And what am I doing if I'm getting angry every morning because I missed the train and I'm repeating the same thing over and over and I'm stressing myself? What consequence does that have on me?
mhm. Oh, well, when we're talking about energy, really some impactful consequences. Energy can change our physicality. We can literally make ourselves sick. Heart attacks, um, liver problems, all kinds of things, even colon problems, can be related back to stress that you have not learned to use, or a trauma that has happened that you are not going to let go of. And it resides in your body. And then you can always go, well, this is because my parents did this, and that's why I have an ulcer. And this is why I do this because such and such and such. That's just a cop out, because
Yeah.
there's not a single human on earth that doesn't have challenges in relationships, in finances, in education. And it just depends on whether you're going to let that be a positive or a negative. Look about all these people that really did not even have the educations, came from absolutely nothing. Dolly Parton, I don't know, she had 17 brothers and sisters and grew up in Kentucky, and where things were really tough on you when you grew up there. And then, like Oprah, her lifetime and what she had to overcome being a black woman. I mean, so what are you going to do with what is given to you? Are you going to sit there and say, I'm starving to death, or are you going to make stone soup?
Yeah. Exactly. Or are you going to be a victim of your past um, experiences and your past
Yes.
life and things that not maybe not only our experiences, but where you come from, because
Hmm.
that cannot be changed. We have this moment right here. We
Yes.
don't yet have the future. It's right around the corner, but the
Correct.
future is created from this moment.
Yes.
So, what am I going to choose to do? Am I going to choose to stubbornly victimize myself because I had so many negatives or challenges or whatever one call it in the past and traumas? Or am I going to say, okay, that is history, it's my history, I can personally learn something from it. I'm going to
Hmm.
bring with me the understanding that I know I don't want to pick and choose that one again. I know I don't want to go
Hmm.
down that route again. I understand that if I would have probably done something different there, maybe another choice, maybe that would have been better. But you know, coming into something else here that's really interesting. A lot of people say, I regret my choices in the past, and they blame themselves for it. But that is not the key,
Mm-mm.
because that's not going to change anything. But you
Nope.
can learn from your choice, and understand that that choice may not have been my best choice,
Yes.
but be at peace with it. Because the beautiful thing is, and this is really beautiful, everybody is the sum they are at this very moment in time because of the past experiences. So when you start to find yourself and when you start to grow self-love, that's going to expand. But
Mhm.
everything you've gone through have brought you to this place.
Mhm. And the difference between people that just hang on to their traumas and the ones that learn from them, we're given this ability to be able to look at our past as an observer. I mean, I could go through and tell you all the things that happened in my past, and I do not have a trigger. I'm not going to go, oh, I remember when that happened and everything else, because we do accept them as the story that got us to the now. And I realize how much I live in the now. When I had Easter brunch with my family, and I'm looking around, and all of my children are there, and I'm going, when did they get so old? You know, I mean, when did this happen? Because I'm in the moment. I'm not in the past or everything else, and I'm going, my goodness, my oldest child is 61. My next child is 60. My next child is 59. My next child is 55. And then my surprise package, she's only 41. There's 20 years between them. And I'm going, they're talking about what they're doing and what they can't do. And I'm looking at that and I'm going, but I'm not any older. And it was just because I live in the present moment. I don't live
Yeah.
in the past. That's like reading a story about the person that calls herself Karine. And I haven't written what's coming in the futures, and I'm always in the now. And I'm going, well, that was really an interesting, as I'm looking around, and I'm going, but I'm not getting any older. I'm not changing. I mean, just because I'm hitting that 81 in a week, that doesn't mean anything to me. That's because I'm in the now. I'm alert. I'm awake. I'm alive, and that is just time passing. But it was an interesting observation that I had.
Yeah, but you know, we are, of course, we are growing and expanding and changing and
Mhm.
maturing, and as souls, right? But the soul is the same, right? We
Exactly.
gain experience. Yeah, well, I'm 61. I don't feel like 61. I'm still 60, by the way. It's another month.
Yeah, and but time passing is time and space. They become one. They don't become a dominant factor in how I'm going to live my life. Well, okay, this time has passed, so I've got to this and I've got to that. No, there again, I'm in the now, and the soul is ageless. So why is everybody else getting older around me?
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, you know, sometimes you feel the body sometimes because the body
yeah.
changes, because a lot of things, and maybe we could have taken better care of it.
Oh
But
yeah,
at the same time, we did our best, and sometimes we do wake up a little bit late in life when it comes to paying too much attention to certain things, right? But that's
correct.
fine too, right? And even if we can grow very, very old, I think that our soul is eternal,
Hmm.
but body is like our vehicle here. It's not eternal, but we can stretch it out, right? We can,
Yep.
and we do that with our soul. But it doesn't mean we can become a million years old. And maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. So we change. Very cool. But that's another story too, right? Kind
Yes,
of interesting.
yes. But the gift, if we accept things that we're going through as a gift. Now, when I say that, I'm not saying that, oh, it's wonderful that I stubbed my toe. It gives us a chance to be aware that we need to be more careful with our toe. It gives us a chance to pause in that moment and maybe come back to the now. And I think when we experience trauma and adversity, it again, how are we going to use this to get stronger or use it to become angry and
Yeah.
resentful and destroy
Yeah.
our own
Ex-
essence?
exactly. And I can use a kind of recent event that happened to me when I broke my leg
Oh
last
yes.
summer at end of July. My first reaction, because I have a big mouth and I'm stubborn, and I said to everybody at the hospital, I think day 2 or 3, I said, in a few days I'm going to be out of here.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
but then I realized I was not. And I said to myself, well, resistance a little bit, just a tiny bit. I don't have time for this. I need to get back home. I don't have time for this, right? And then I said, okay, this is what it is. I changed it to I do what I can with what I currently,
That's right.
and I look forward.
And you
I
did it
could
so.
have been, I could have been really, really angry.
Yes, you could have. And yet we had a lot of good laughs. And the beauty that if you decided to experience a trauma in your life, you did it in front of doctors. And they
Yeah,
got you into the best hospital that money could buy. And you did it in Sweden where they know more about legs than any place in the world. So I mean, if you were going to experience this pause in your life, you really set it up so it was not
yeah,
as traumatic as if it had happened when you're in the middle of the desert somewhere with nobody around. So, so
exactly,
you know,
exactly. So, but it's about when we find ourselves in a situation. I could have been so angry, but I could have said so many things. But it's about accepting again, as we
mhm,
talked about before. This is how it is right now. What can
exactly.
I do with this?
Yeah.
Because there were probably other benefits for me. I just was kind of put down, sit down here, take a rest, don't overdo it, right?
And and yes,
Reflection.
and that's the beauty of it, that you realized that this was something that you wouldn't have deliberately picked for yourself, but it was the circumstances that came up. And like with Mercury, instead of fighting against it and being angry and resentful and giving everybody a hard time, you allowed their knowledge, their expertise, and you allowed your body to take the time it needed. So you came out so much better than if you had resisted. Had you resisted, it would have taken you longer to heal because of
Yeah,
the energy. And
yeah,
so you
the
just said,
energy.
I'll do what I need to do and get this thing going, and then I'll be up and about. And that's not giving in. That
No,
is being a participant in the process.
yeah, because there are a lot of things in our lives where we can't really change them right there and then, right?
Right.
So the only thing we have is our response. to what's happening, right?
Exactly. So this is the beauty of our experience, our human experience, and uh, the people, as I said, that have been resilient have come through unbelievable traumas and challenges, and yet have come out on the other side and become more compassionate, more understanding, and more able to handle things and guide other people to this, rather than the ones that have come out and then just gone to the negative. So we have choice. We always have a choice in how we perceive it, how we handle, and how we respond to it. And that is the beauty of resilience.
Exactly, it is. And there's a collective power of resilience as well, right?
Hmm.
Mm.
Yes. And the more that we contribute to bringing that one little lit candle, that one little bit of light, that one little bit of hope, that one word that you might say to someone, and you're not even aware that you have impacted and inspired them. And when we talk about the Celestine prophecy, we're going to be talking more about that, how each one of us may have a word, a phrase, an action that is going to allow a person to further their journey. And
Yeah,
there again,
a piece of puzzle, a piece
this
of puzzle.
beautiful tapestry that we're weaving, and we're part of it. We're this
Yeah, we are
beautiful
part of it.
individual, resilient human being, and uh, becoming the best that we can be.
Yeah, and growing resilience is wonderful. It's a beautiful thing,
Hmm.
but it's not a trait. That you're born with or inherited. It's something that you need to grow and develop.
Hmm. Yes, and may we continuously grow in our resilience, grow in our compassion, grow in our self love, and become the authentic, incredible person that we came here to be.
Yes, indeed. Okay.
Yes,
So, my precious Corinne, you
yes,
are really precious to me. You know that.
yes.
Is there anything we want to add to today's
Well,
show?
always, but I think we've probably I think we've hit upon a lot of points that are going to give a person a moment to say, "Oh, well, I am in control. I do have a choice on how I'm going to respond to this, and I choose to respond in this way." Um, and we never really will know the full extent of the people that are listening, the people that have taken something away from what we've said. And so, all of these magic words, may they bless the people that need to hear them.
Exactly. And everything can be overcome. Everything, everything,
Yes,
everything.
yes.
So, am I wrapping up?
You
Yes.
are wrapping up, my dear.
Thank you, everybody. And we did fail to stream on Facebook today, but you can always go to youtube.com/at Angel Place on Earth /streams, stream or streams. And you find all our live shows over there. And we have been talking about resilience in the face of adversity, navigating trauma and tough times. That is kind of a juicy topic. And an important one because we can manage that too. Everything is manageable. You can also find all past episodes at angelplaceonearth.com/upcoming dash past. Our next upcoming show on Cosmic Guardians with Cosmic Sister show is next Wednesday, April 30. Oh, last day of April. And we will be talking about quantum entanglement when particles dance in cosmic harmony. Oh, that's interesting. Energy of all
Oh,
sorts,
wow.
right?
You come up with some mouthfuls there.
And we do go live for you every Wednesday in US and Europe and every Thursday in Australia. And you can connect with us, find upcoming shows, past episodes, read articles, find Kareen and find me at angelplaceonearth.com/cosmic guardians. And again, past and upcoming episodes at angelplaceonearth.com/upcoming dash past. And I thank you again for watching us and spending your time with us. We see you next week. And I say love, light, peace, and joy to all of you. Thank you.
Love, light, peace, joy, and laughter. Laughter. Yes.
Wonderful. Bye.
Bye bye.